Hello. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. My name is Kate Lee, and I'm the publisher of Stripe Press, an imprint of Stripe that publishes books about economic, technological, and societal advancement. We're here with the authors of the book Get Together for a workshop about how to build a culture of leadership and community. It's the first of a new online conversation series with tech leaders about which we'll be sharing more information soon. So look out for an email early next week where you'll learn more about it. A few nuts and bolts about the event today. We're recording it, so it'll be available to share and view afterwards. The workshop will last for about 30 minutes, followed by a Q&A. We've gathered questions that many of you submitted at registration, but you may also use the Q&A function on Zoom to submit others. On to today's workshop. Bailey Richardson and Kevin Nguyen will be on screen to introduce you to a three-part process exploring how you can build a culture of leadership and community with your people, not just for them. Kai Elmer Soto, the third of the trio, is also with us today doing some work behind the scenes. They are the co-authors of the book Get Together, a guide to cultivating community and bringing people together around shared interests and passions, and the co-founders of People and Company, which advises companies on community building strategies. They're a special trio on screen and off. Bailey is an expert storyteller and researcher who has helped shape the communities around Instagram, IDEO, and Pop-Up Magazine. Kevin is a strategist and operational expert who is on the board of the EdCamp Foundation and advises groups that build empowered communities. Kai focuses on how communities can fuel business growth, which he did at both Facebook and Instagram. Bailey and Kevin, over to you.
Ooh, unmute time. Oh, welcome. Welcome to my kitchen. Here we are. I thought it'd be a little bit more longer until I was able to stream me making dal to 200 people, but just kidding. We're here. I'm one of the founders at People and Company, and at People and Company, our mission is to bridge gaps by helping people get their people together. And those two aspects, bridging gaps and getting together, feel like they're changing a bit right now. Those gaps between us and maybe our customers, our coworkers, our neighbors, our family, our friends can feel like they're widening, as well as how we can get together feels like it's shifting. But our perspective is that stuff may be changing, but the fundamentals haven't changed. Communities feel magical, but they don't come together by magic. The fundamentals around how to bring people together around something they care about hasn't changed. So we have a really wide range of callers here today. I think I saw an old person from high school I know, but people representing bigger businesses from Bain, Google, Facebook, folks running smaller businesses and independent communities. See our friends from Girls Night In on the line. And we want to kind of go back to basics and help y'all think about how to build a community with your people today. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to the person I spend the second most time with in the world after my fiance, my friend and business partner, Bailey Richardson.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We want to kick this thing off with a story. So Kev, flip it to the next slide. Curious if anyone out there can recognize this person. We're not going to have you call it out in chat, but this man is Robert Wang. You might recognize him now. Robert is the founder of Instant Pot. Instant Pot, if you're in the US, you probably know it. It's a remarkable product. So remarkable that there's a whole community of people out there who call themselves potheads, who are rabid fans. They have broken records on Amazon Prime Day for sales, for reviews also. And at my last check, they doubled their business year over year, doubled their revenue for 7 straight years. So we wanted to interview Robert about how he cultivated such a rabid community. And they're not just fans, they're actually sharing tips with each other, sharing recipes with each other. And in our interview with Robert, they're even knitting Instant Pots, knitting covers for their Instant Pots. In our interview with Robert, he shared a key insight that he founded his business based on. And that was that cooking is a social practice. People want to share their ideas and experiences with each other very naturally. We eat together, and we want to tell people about how we made the food that we made. And because of that insight, at a crucial moment in the early stages of the business, Instant Pot decided, instead of just marketing to people, instead of starting a email marketing program and strategy, they would instead open a Facebook group. They had limited resources. They could only do so much. And they decided, let's connect our fans to one another instead of just speaking at them. So they launched that group, and people flooded in, helping each other with tips for how to use an Instant Pot, but also sharing recipes. Today, that group has more than 1.5 million people in it. And some reporters who are normally quite critical of the ways we interact with each other online have called it the kindest place on the internet. So Robert knew something. He had a vision in his mind for doing things slightly differently. Robert thought about speaking less at people, doing things for people, and doing more of building with, connecting people to do things themselves, offering them the structure and permission to connect with each other. This is what Kevin and I and Kai are passionate about. It's what the great community leaders we've talked to over the last 3 years have understood. And this is what we spend our time teaching as many people, organizations, and businesses as possible how to do. So we're going to get into some in-depth training for you today, thinking for you today. But before we do that, I'm just going to share a little bit more about us so you know who we are. Kevin, Kai, and I, like we said, we run a small but mighty business called People and Company. 3 years ago, we decided to join forces as a team because we aspired to remove the ambiguity around community building. We wanted less abstract theories, and we wanted more clear steps. We're here today because we published our book with Stripe Press, which was a wonderful experience. We love that team. And we hope people who have read it, we hope people who are on the line today, you included, can use it and can use what we're sharing today as a tool to bridge the gaps between us that seem to be widening more and more these days. Our book was informed by Kevin, Kai, and my own personal experiences as community practitioners, but even more so, informed by all of the community leaders that we've interviewed for our podcast, that we've coached in our pro bono coaching sessions, and that we've worked with. We've gotten to speak to some of the community leaders that we admire most all around the world. Everyone from the founder of the Pantsuit Nation Facebook group, who you can see on a Zoom call with me there in the center with her baby, to a woman who runs a basketball team for women who are bad at basketball in New York City, to Twitch streamers and partners. As a small business, we've also done work with some community-driven businesses. This is us helping Porsche, working with some of their most passionate drivers to improve an app that they're building for drivers.
Mute. So as yours probably has, our work has changed a bit over the last few weeks. Our training labs have gone totally virtual, as well as like our coaching sessions and our research interviews. And, we're tackling some new questions that ladder back up to how to build a community with your people and how to bridge gaps among people you care about. But as I said before, we want to focus today on what, not what has changed, but what hasn't changed. And so whether you're a VC in San Francisco, or you run a co-working space in El Paso, or you run a potluck for Vietnamese Americans in New York, we want to go back to basics with some grounding principles and help you just think about, how to think about how to help people connect today. So in the spirit of bridging gaps, I think the first part we want to get into is establishing a common vocabulary. So what's a community, as we keep talking about it? To us, true communities are simply groups of people who keep coming together over what they care about. And I'll break that down. First, we're not going to talk about this feeling of community or sense of community. We're going to talk about groups of people, a community, these communities, and kind of the more specific, the better. This isn't about a broad user base and calling that your community. It's a specific group of people. Second, folks keep coming together over what they care about. To us, if you have people that participate in a one-off AMA or come once to that virtual happy hour or leave a single contribution, they're not a community. They don't keep coming together. They don't keep showing up. And finally, they come together over what they care about. And this is where a lot of that magic is. There's a lot of people out there that care about a lot of different things. And today we're going to talk about communities that care about cooking, that care about toys, that take care about children's health. But what we're not going to do is assume that they're a community because of happenstance. Assume that they're a community just because they're neighbors that live next to each other. They have to care about something in common. So true communities are simply groups of people who keep coming together over what they care about. So, preview. If you're with me so far, you might ask them, how do you build a community? And to us, this is the big takeaway from kind of all of our research together over the past couple of years. And it's that you build a community with people, not for them. You build it with people, not for them. I like to say you can think about community building as progressive acts of collaboration. You might have to rally people for that first time. You might have to, organize that first activity, pull together that first small group circle. But hopefully you do more with others kind of at every stage. And over time, the more you do together, and the more you kind of break up all of those responsibilities, everything that goes into it, the more you own it together. And the more you own it together, the more it means to you and the more you can accomplish. So if you're on board with Build With, then to me, the next question is, all right, so how does this really look? How does this really happen? I was a mechanical engineer, and then I charted my own path, and now I'm a guy streaming from his kitchen talking about community building. But the analogy we like to use as far as how to build a community with your people, the steps involved is that building a community is a lot like building a fire. Fires feel magical, but they don't come together by magic. There's a general, order of operations to create one that burns bright. And we break it down in our book in 3 phases. The first is sparking the flame. This is the idea of you're getting together, you're just starting your community. You're figuring out who you're going to bring together, why are you going to come together, and what you're going to do together. The second phase is stoking the fire. And this is about building a vibrant community. It's about how can you, at the same time you're attracting new people, make sure that people stick together, develop that sense of identity. And if you pay attention to who keeps showing up, you can enter into this final stage, which is passing the torch. This idea is really centered on creating more leaders, supercharging those leaders. So you can, you can expand to new places, but you can also just evolve. You can evolve, you can tackle new challenges. This is what creates a resilient community. To us, these steps, they don't change. I mean, maybe the order shifts based on sort of the unique situation with your community, but they apply. They apply whether we're talking about in person or online. They apply across thinking about teammates, customers, contributors, fans, volunteers. And what we do is we use this as a diagnosis tool. This is sort of like the tree of knowledge, and it allows us to say, hey, based on what challenge we're facing right now with our community, what are we missing, or what do we need to focus more on, or do we miss kind of a step along the way? I'll leave you 2 seconds to screenshot this if you like, or you can grab the book. That said, you can dig into all these pieces. We have stories that are hopefully both informative and interesting in our book in the different chapters, but we want to zoom in on one. We want to keep it simple today, and we want to zoom in on this idea of doing something together. We want to help you answer one actionable question today, which is, what shared activity will bring my people together today? I believe I have people that I'm thinking about. You have people you're thinking about. They're people that you probably know a lot better than I do. These might be friends, family, coworkers, customers, donors, volunteers. And amidst sort of change, I think this question, a key question that we keep hearing is, what should we do together right now and why? And so we want to kind of play coach. We can't answer these questions for you. We didn't come with kind of baked ideas for you. We came with a process. So we want to kind of walk you through how to start answering this question for yourself. So I'm going to cut to the chase. And to us, there are three, traits of an exceptional shared activity, an exceptional activity that communities form around. And please try to, channel these to rally customers, coworkers, neighbors, and other folks that you care about. So the acronym, it's not an acronym. The three traits are purposeful, participatory, and repeatable. PPR for short, or as I like to call it, pepper. That's why you're in my kitchen. Sprinkle a little pepper on this webinar. And I'm going to pass it off to Bailey, who will kind of walk us through each of these traits and try to illustrate them with some really interesting community stories. Oh, there you go.
Other animation. Groovy. So we're going to start with repeatable. Remember the definition that Kevin just shared about communities, groups of people who keep coming together over what they care about? A community is only a community of people keep getting together. One-offs are the enemy. And if we're going to use some business language, sprinkle some business language into this presentation, retention is the key here. So when you think about what you do as a community, I often take sort of inspiration from the owner of my favorite cafe. Mine is Velvet on Smith Street in Brooklyn, near my house. Two brothers run it. It's 1 block away from me. And regulars like me can rely on that cafe door opening each morning. I know when the hours are. I know when the doors are going to be open, and I know when the doors are going to be closed. I can rely on them over and over again, and I'm happy to keep showing up. So maybe your community in a pre-COVID world got together in person for an activity. I play pickup basketball in New York. My host, my coach, every Tuesday night has practice. I put it in my calendar. Nothing takes that slot. I keep it clear, and I know it's going to happen. That same repeatability should be transferred online for your sake as an organizer and also for your community's sake. Online, a lot of spaces in groups or in messenger threads are very valuable, but these just sort of open messages are not quite the same as a shared activity, in our opinion. The most powerful shared activities are focused moments. So everyone in the community can tune in, can plug in at the same time, and that's when the magic happens. So this is Dr. Gbemisola Boyede. She knows what's up. Dr. Boyede started one of my favorite communities that I've spoken to in the last 3 years. It's called Ask the Pediatricians, English spelling pediatricians. Dr. Gbemi is from Nigeria, where child mortality rates are very high, death rates are very high. And a big reason is because there's a gap geographically and just in terms of access and numbers between parents and medical practitioners. So Dr. Gbemi saw this gap and also saw people posting misinformation online, parents not knowing the right treatments for their children when they were sick. And she decided to step in, and she opened a Facebook page called Ask the Pediatricians. I want to play a little clip. We have a podcast, and we interviewed Dr. Gbemi, and I want to play a little clip of her voice so you can hear her talking about what she's built. Dr. Gbemi saw this all around her online when people would offer up false remedies for each other's children, and she'd have to intervene. She was playing whack-a-mole with each of these threads, and it wasn't going to work at scale, and she decided to take action by opening an Ask the Pediatricians Facebook group with the goal of educating regular people by giving them access to medical practitioners.
I want you to know that when you come to this platform, you're only going to get a pediatrician's perspective on any issue. It's up to you to take it. It's up to you not to take it. I mean, it's an information group. It's an health education group. But I want the mothers to know this is a pediatrician's perspective. Then they can make a choice.
So today, there are more than 600,000 parents in this group. And Dr. Gabemi originally was the only pediatrician that answered questions. So there's just a small group of them. She now has over 2,000 medical professionals that help her by volunteering to answer questions in the group. So like I said, the regular flow of the page, there are Q&As, there are posts, there are questions, there are replies, but that isn't enough for a shared activity. And Dr. Gabemi knows this. So within the regular flow of all of those posts, this group also hosts 2 live discussions each week. They happen on the same days consistently, and they allow for members of the community to come together live and to learn from different medical practitioners. So here on the screen is one pediatric dentist who gave a presentation, and also a discussion that they had, a very lively discussion that they had about vaccinations and immunities. So actually jump to the next one there, Kev. I cannot underscore this point of repeatability enough. It's actually, I think, of all the things that we've researched, the biggest point that stuck out to me. If you can host activities consistently and regularly, and your community can plan for them and put them in their calendars, that's how you're going to get momentum with a group, and you're going to offer your community something that they can keep showing up to build meaningful relationships with one another. And it also benefits you as a host. So it kind of takes that exhausting, what should I do this week? What should I do next week? What should I do next month? Ideation and preparation and planning off of your shoulders, and allows you to optimize something, to repeat it, to do it over and over again. So if you want to come up with a repeatable shared activity, make sure it's punctuated, and also make sure it's feasible for you or others to do over and over again. So that's point number 1, principle number 1. Great. So Pepper, our second principle, was participatory. As we said in the beginning, a community is about building with progressive acts of collaboration and doing more with others every step of the way. The people in a community are the people who are passionate about what you two are passionate about. And making an activity participatory is all about giving these passionate folks the chance to contribute because they care just like you. So we're going to talk about an organization that completely transformed itself by investing in participatory activities. This is a talk from the very first TED conference in 1984 in Monterey, California. In 1984, at the time, TED was a 1,000-person conference, no videos online, $4,000 a ticket, and mostly well-off folks would gather to hear 18-minute lectures on tech, entertainment, and design in one location. They'd leave the room, and that would be it. But Chris Anderson, the head of TED, and his team believed that there was something special happening in that room, and they wanted to figure out how to allow the magic to escape the room. So since 2006, they put the videos up online. They began to have TEDx hosts, volunteer hosts, lead TEDx events all around the world. They have a TED translator program. Tens of thousands of people volunteer their time to translate TED's talks into languages so people in their home countries can spread those ideas, can learn those ideas. And 36 years down the road, they're still doing this. They're still challenging themselves to create participatory activities so that people around the world can break off their own piece of TED and have ownership over it and shape it and bring it into their own lives. So the shared activity I want to focus on today is one that you might not have heard of. These are TED Circles. And that's us on the left with Jay Harati, who is the executive director of TEDx. And he brought us in to do some coaching with his team about this program. So the TED Circles format is very simple. In cities and towns around the world, a volunteer host is tasked with getting a small group of people together who are meant to keep meeting to watch and discuss a TED Talk. And it's based on a global monthly theme that TED establishes. They did a pilot program, and more than 150 volunteers raised their hands to host a TED Circle. And TED HQ, with just one person focusing on this program, they have devised only the concept and the format structure, but it's up to each community to bring that structure to life, to breathe life into those circles. So now, with what's going on in the world, people are no longer doing these circles in person, but they brought them online. So recently, Chris Anderson, the head of TED, actually hosted his own TED Circle about Bill Gates' pandemic talk. So people could plug in and join this shared activity and shape it with him.
So, TED Circles has taken their TED Talks, which are these one-way lectures, and turned them into participatory small group circles. And there are many ways to make a shared activity more participatory. It could be as simple as, lecture to small group circle, a conference where, someone's deciding the whole agenda ahead of time can become an unconference where the attendees decide the day of together. A single storytelling can become an anthology. A set menu becomes a potluck where everyone contributes. A guidebook becomes a wiki. There are lots of ways, and it comes back to this idea of, build with. How do you accomplish something with your people, not trying to do it for them? So this theme is participatory. The question we would, the challenge we would issue to you as you think about, what can I do to bring my people together is, how are we giving passionate folks the chance to contribute? Are my community members, are those office mates I'm trying to organize something for? Are those customers I'm trying to do a program for? Are those volunteers? Are they essential to the shared activity that I'm organizing? Am I just, creating content and talking at them? When I could be building with them, I could be working with them, I could be helping them help each other.
All right, final guiding principle.
Purposeful.
This one is This one is purposeful. So we see this over and over again, but organizations, often businesses, who don't have a clear understanding, cognitive clarity around their community's purpose, who's in the community and why they're gathering, or why they want to connect with each other, those organizations risk building a space, hosting an activity or an event that no one actually wants to show up to. So if you want to create a shared activity that actually resonates with your community, it needs to reflect them. It can't just be participatory and repeatable. It must reflect the people in your community and what they want more of in the world. So I'm really excited to share that Tim Courtney, who launched this program at Legos, is actually on the call today.
Ooh,
so
hello,
hopefully
Tim.
I get this right for you, Tim. But one of my favorite examples of this is the Lego Ideas program. So if you're a Lego super fan, you likely are building your own world with the blocks. But for 75 years of its history, Lego HQ did nothing with all of that brain power, very little with all of that brain power from its super fans who are out there remixing the product. They made toys exclusively for customers in a private innovation process from their HQ in Denmark. That changed when Tim and Lego Ideas came onto the scene. The company now hosts their shared activity are like these online challenges that give Lego superfans the chance to share their own set ideas with each other and with the company's designers back at HQ. These superfan submissions are why the world has Lego sets like Women of NASA and the Yellow Submarine I just showed you. This is Tim on the left with Maya Weinstock, the original fan creator for the Women of NASA set in a store in the middle of Manhattan where she signed set kits for fans who came to buy the Women of NASA set. So I'd like to play also a little bit of Tim's voice, the man behind Lego HQ's investment in Lego Ideas.
you look at like what Lego bricks are, it's an open medium. It's a blank canvas. You can't sell like nuts and bolts and boards. Home Depot couldn't say, well, like why are you doing all this crazy stuff with our products, right? Why are you building houses with it? Like, I didn't want you to build that kind of house, right? How silly would that be, right? But they could just keep on selling boards and screws at people, right? And like make them put them into bins. So like, think about that. Like, Lego is an expressive medium fundamentally, and people are going to remix it.
So like, by investing in a platform that allowed super fans to share their ideas with each other and also with the company, what Lego did was just naturally supercharge something that their super fans already wanted to do. They wanted to remix the product. This is what we mean by purposeful. This shared activity serves Lego's most passionate people specifically, and the reason they want to connect with each other, to express themselves and their ideas. And as an added bonus for Lego Inc., by creating ideas with their passionate fans, Lego has come up with more ideas than they ever could have. More than 26,000 set ideas have been submitted. That's an incredible well of inspiration for designers back at HQ. So what Lego did is they got cognitively clear on two questions. Who are our most passionate people, and why do those people want to connect with each other? Before they launched their shared activity to the world, they had a clear understanding of their answer to those two questions. Now, Lego swung for the fences. They really got this right. But the purposes behind communities can be all across the board. We've interviewed a squirrel census community that comes together to count squirrels, a community that picks up trash and logs data together, a community that comes together to remix AeroPress coffee recipes. And maybe you play bridge with your friends. Maybe you do trivia nights with your friends, go for runs, play video games. The reality is the right shared activity for your people isn't something that you can copy and paste from another group. And unfortunately, we can't stand up here and give you a simple answer about what it is. It's up to you to figure out how to design that shared activity so that it is purposeful and that it resonates with your people. And the more the details of your shared activity reflect your specific people and what they need and want, the more excited those people are going to be to show up over and over to contribute to it and possibly even spread it.
So, Lego's purpose for their community, the why is, around inspiration. They have super fans contributing ideas for new sets. That's and they're inspiring each other with new ideas for what they can build with Lego. Instant Pot is probably more around skill development. The potheads are honing their skills at craft and practice. I am myself perfecting my next recipe. And their shared activities, the Instant Potheads, around swapping recipes, they reflect that. But, community can also come around emotional support. Here's one, some friends, run the Cosmos, which is a lot less about skill development and more about emotional support. It's a community of Asian women, and it's focused around supporting one another, and their shared activity, one that they're building out right now, is a cohort. It's a 4-week small group circle where, a group, I think, of 10 people come together, go through sort of a process in self-discovery and healing. What I hope you gather by now is a difference for kind of what happens when you optimize a community around a different purpose. Maybe it was, maybe it's about skill development, right? That's the why for the group. Or maybe it's about emotional support. Or maybe it was about skill development and should be more about emotional support now. The point here is to be purposeful. How are we reflecting our communities, who and why in these shared activities? Because the purpose should drive what you do together. That who and why should drive what you do together. So, to summarize, we talked about, we ran through 3 traits of exceptional shared activities, and we were trying to provide you a process for tackling that question. What will my community do together? What will bring them together today? And it was purposeful, participatory, repeatable. Pepper. And if you're, if you're, for instance, if you're thinking about what you can do to bring together, let's say, remote teams, you're trying to bridge that gap that's sort of emerged because you have to change how you're working. First, purposeful, right? Don't bring people together just because they are coworkers. Like, bring people together for a particular purpose. Are you optimizing for inspiration or something else? Participatory. Don't just talk at them. Give them something to do, a way to contribute, a way to really make it something that you couldn't do alone. And finally, repeatable. Don't assume that if you do something once, it's going to have this effect of sparking and stoking your community. Pepper.
Great. So I'm guessing that a number of you are dialing in from businesses or organizations. You have limited resources and you might need to be strategic and thoughtful about what you spend your time on or what your team spends their time on. So you may be wondering that wonderful question, these shared activities are great. We love our biggest fans. We love our most passionate people, but they're a small number. How could we love this word, scale this kind of thing to reach more people? So to answer that question, let's go back to our foundational story here. Let's go back to Instant Pot. Instant Pot understood the final secret that we're going to share today, which is that growing a community is not about management. Growing a community is about developing leaders. So this is an early pothead and one of those leaders, Dr. Urvashi Petri. Urvashi lives in Dallas now, but she was born in India. And a couple years ago, 3 years ago, she posted a remarkable recipe for a healthy butter chicken to the official Instant Pot Facebook group. The recipe that she posted became the group's most popular post, and Urvashi became known as the butter chicken lady to fellow potheads. She's gotten a ton of press since then. The New Yorker even profiled her. And within a few months of posting that recipe, she even signed a book deal for her Indian Instant Pot cookbook. Urvashi is one of the many, as we say, potheads, they call themselves, who eventually created their own more specific Facebook pages to share in the activity they love, swapping tips and how-tos for Instant Pot. These leaders in the Instant Pot community are helping 5.5 million or more people to develop their Instant Pot skills in a more personal, customizable, specific way than an official Instant Pot brand ever could. And instead of shutting these leaders down, Instant Pot has supported and even endorsed them. When we spoke to Robert Wang, the founder, he estimated that more than 2,000 Instant Pot cookbooks have been written by amateurs and professionals alike, like Urvashi. This is her New Yorker profile, in case you want to read it. Urvashi's book was officially endorsed by Instant Pot, and it has more than 100,000 copies in print, just hers, out of 2,000 different books that are doing this. Robert Wang, this is a photo of all those books that he keeps in his office, and fun to report that he has a copy of ours in his office as well because we featured Instant Pot in it. But they understand, Instant Pot understands that the shared ownership of the Instant Pot brand only fuels that community's fire. By creating and empowering more leaders, they only expand the impact of what they're all trying to do together. So this is one of our favorite quotes from a man who's an iconic figure in the citizen science community. He said that the bulk of what gets done is by a small set of fanatics. So once you have your shared activity dialed in, once you have something figured out that people want to keep coming to over and over again, look for your Urvashis. Who shares your passion? Who is showing up and contributing regularly? Find those people and figure out how to supercharge their efforts. If you do that, you may see what you're working on grow. Great community builders understand that growing a community hinges on this principle that these people who care are more powerful than people who don't. People who care are more powerful than people who don't. It's a simple principle. This idea that 20% of the people or less drives the 80%. So I love an analogy that Laura Nessler, who is amazing, the head of community at Duolingo and also was the head of community at Yelp when it just was getting off the ground, has shared with the world. She says that building a community is actually really the opposite of the marketing funnel. With marketing, you're trying to reach the biggest group of people as possible and whittle them down step by step. Instead, a community grows like this. You may start as the lone host. Think of Robert Wang launching that Facebook group back in the day. You're a fanatic, you're passionate about what you're doing, but you don't know if anyone else is. Then you find your early collaborators. You find and reach out to those 2 or 3 people to join you. They get involved with your shared activity. They align with your purpose, and they'll show up when other people won't to do it with you. So don't forget, big things start small. You've got your small group of fanatics. You found your first Urvashis. And if your little group has a purpose and a shared activity that really resonates, more people are going to want to join forces with you, raising their hands to contribute, or maybe to even a host activity themselves, or to contribute and spread it to more people. Soon enough, you may end up in a position like what Kevin and I found ourselves in the beginning of our careers, where people you've never met, absolute strangers all around the world, are raising their hand to contribute and host, and you are off and running and growing in an organic and passionate way. But none of this community-driven growth, none of this community building on a small scale, or if you want to grow, can happen if you're the bottleneck. If you as an organizer, if you as an organization build for or at and don't build with. If you do not want to bottleneck your community or your most passionate people, you will have to build with. Alone, we are limited. Alone, we can only do so much. But when we bring in other passionate people, we can expand our reach. Rad.
Yay, go Bailey. Woo! So I think we'll have a tiny bit of time for questions. I'll just mention, one, if you want to learn more about us and our services, go to peopleand.com. Also, if you enjoyed today, we're soon going to be hosting some get-together jams. Y'all are leaders, and we'll be bridging different leaders to help kind of pool inspo and guidance to accomplish more together with our community. So if you want to be the first in the know on that, you can sign up for our Substack at people-and.com to test drive with us. Yeah, thanks for listening. Here's our info, the book, the podcast, all that good stuff. And thank you. Kate, what's up?
Great. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. We are going to take just a few questions and we'll get started. So first off, how do you create inclusive communities in times of division?
Great. Kev, do you want me to take this one or you?
You can go for it.
All right. Well, I think that is like the big question today. And it's the reason why we do this work. For us, it's personal. It's not just professional. But I think whenever I hear the word diversity connected to community building, I just want to make very, very clear that it takes explicit, intentional work from the leaders of a community to set that tone. We see this in small ways and big. There's a run club that we interviewed for our book. That's the very first story that we tell. And they are so diverse, combining people who are grandmas in their 70s and 80s, people who are 25 and a new dad and need to lose weight, all different languages, all different skin colors, all different body types, all running through the streets of Washington Heights and Manhattan together. And they make this diversity explicit in the photos that they take and the images that they share on their Instagram, which is how people find out about them. But if you're operating in an online world, if you're operating in a space where you maybe don't know each other and you don't see each other in person or share that visual aspect, you need to make the rules of the group really explicit. So you need to role model what you want the group to be like, the diversity that you want to make space for, and make that very intentional. So role modeling that behavior is 2 things. Number 1, you have to show the things that you absolutely do want in the group. Who is welcome here? What is welcome here? What do we celebrate? What behaviors do we encourage? And then you also need to make clear what's not okay in this group. What things are not allowed, what are the expectations, and ensure that you as a leader or fellow moderators are making those rules come to life if people cross the line. The piece there that I think a lot of people forget is they often just focus on sort of that policing side of, did someone do something wrong? But the best community organizers also celebrate diversity and step forward with it and make it clear from the get-go.
Great, thanks so much. We'll do one or two more questions. What are strategies for working with remote teams, and how do these things translate from in-person to remote? I know you talked a little bit about that, but given that's where most people are right now, I thought it might be useful to spend a little more time on that.
Me?
Go for it, Kev, yeah.
Well, the one thing I was going to mention, and I'll sound like a broken record, is what are you going to do together? With regards to, I think with remote teams, from my experience, you lose some of the kind of reflexive, natural interactions and activities that folks are, come together on when they are able to kind of bump into each other in person. And so the question is, how, what could you do today to bring people together and make sure that there's a particular purpose behind it? And that purpose shouldn't just be like, oh, we are a team and we need to connect and talk to one another. That's kind of table stakes. That's why it's a shared activity, not just an activity alone. But what do people need a little bit more right now? Is it inspiration? Is it skill development? Is it support? Is it something else? And how can you design something that is remote friendly, that is friendly to sort of how they can engage and what platforms they use and what time they can participate? And how can you do something that engages them in a participatory, repeatable way, over and over again?
Fantastic, thank you. We will do one more. Are there any examples of software companies building products with the input of their community, aka waitlists or private beta?
Yeah, I think this is something that for young entrepreneurs, I would just say this is a way that you can wedge by really knowing your community better and communicating with them in a way that big companies may not be able to. So 2 companies come to mind that did this, and I think it was really instrumental for them finding product market fit and also just their culture and ethos of running their entire companies. One is Product Hunt. A lot of people know this, but Product Hunt started out with community at the forefront, and they continue to release products that way, bringing people, strangers, into like Google Documents where they've written out their initial ideas for a product well before the beta even gets involved. They're making people into co-owners, and they're getting that feedback that they need early and often. And so Product Hunt is amazing. You can check out their Medium page and see how they've actually explained just how they've done that with the world. And I think they're a great North Star for people that are looking to do this. There's also another person, and his name is Alex, and I'm forgetting his last name. Kev, you might remember it. It's Alex Zhu, C-H-U. And you may know him, but he was the founder of Musical.ly, and he now works at TikTok. But there's an incredible interview that he gave with Greylock where he talks about how he's actually on WeChat and WhatsApp with people sharing wireframes with his users, with American teenagers. He's based in China. He doesn't totally understand the psychology, and he has regular, just ongoing conversations with people who are really passionate about his product so he can understand the gaps and also just kind of create that sense of co-ownership. So those 2 really stand out to me, but I think it's something that as a small company, it's a real advantage you have to be able to be nimble with how you communicate with those people who care the most about your product. And my argument is bring people in meaningful ways as early as possible, even before you have the beta or you have wait lists and things like that. Like, get your co-owners, build that cohort as early as you can.
Great, thank you so much. That brings us to the end of the workshop. We will share all of the questions you submitted with Bailey, Kevin, and Kai so that they can review them after the fact. And thank you so much to Bailey and Kevin and to Kai and to everyone who's tuned in. You may be redirected to a very short survey right after this, and also look out for an email in your inbox early next week to see what events we have coming up from Stripe, as well as a chance to get a free copy of the book Get Together. Thanks again, and have a great day.